I don't know about where you were at, but where I'm at, a lot of people are
opportunity creation, point of sale, and project.
and it has a lot to do with
Project creation.
yeah, so
That was a week ago, Friday.
I do. I do. Well, I'll tell you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Will Kane. I act as captain of the Queen Mary on a daily basis to all of our guests who visit. So on behalf of the rest of my crew and staff, I want to welcome you all aboard. How many of you are visiting us for the very first time? Welcome, British government, to mail back and forth from Europe to America. This is why she was called the RMS Queen Mary. It stood for Royal Mail Ship. Plans to begin the Queen Mary and her sister ship, the Queen Elizabeth, began back in 1926. They were to be the largest and fastest passenger liners ever built. Work began in 1930 at the John Brown Shipyard in Clydebank, Scotland, but due to the Great Depression, work stopped about a year later. Eventually, the British government offered Cunard a loan to finish building both of the ships if they would agree to merge with their rival shipping company, which was the White Star Line. They took them up on the offer. It became the Cunard White Star Line. Work resumed on job number 534. That's all the Queen Mary was known as at that time. She was launched in September of 1934 and set sail on her maiden voyage May 27, 1936. She continued passenger service between Southampton, England, and New York City, with a short stop in Cherbourg, France, until 1939, when war was declared on Germany. She was the first Cunard liner called up by the British Admiralty for active war duty as a troop ship. In March of 1940, she was drafted. She became a troop carrier, a hospital ship, and at the end of the war, she served as the bride and baby shuttle. She went back into passenger service in 1947 and served another 20 years, known as the safest ship on the seas. In the early 1960s, all passenger liners began to lose money. Jet air travel was becoming the primary mode of transatlantic transportation, so Cunard decided to put her up for sale. And the largest bid came from the city of Long Beach, California, $3.45 million. She set sail on her last great cruise October 31st. She arrived here in Long Beach Harbor on December 9th. It was a 39-day voyage because she's 8 feet too wide to fit through the Panama Canal. So she had to go down the coast of South America and around Cape Horn, crossing the equator twice in order to get her. Immediately upon arriving, they began transforming her from a luxury liner into a floating hotel, a tourist attraction, and a convention center. We opened to the public in 1971, and in 1993 we were placed on the National Register of Historic Places with historic significance. This year we're celebrating the 45th anniversary of her arrival here in Southern California. She is now longer part of Long Beach, California history than she was actually sailing out at sea. Okay, if you'll follow me into Main Hall, we'll continue. Shots of the stern of our ship from that voyage in July of 1943, when she was carrying 16,683 human beings. Accommodations for the troops stood wherever they could fit bunks. Standee bunks, which were 3 to 5, sometimes 7 beds high, 18 inches apart, stood almost everywhere. The squash court on Sports Deck was outfitted to sleep 96. Gymnasium, 88. First class swimming pool, 110. The second class pool, 124. The tanks of the swimming pools themselves were drained and slept 61 people. A deck was outfitted for 1,887, B deck 2,336. Total number of beds aboard during the war, 10,939. Now you add to that all the outside deck space and the hot pump system, and you begin to understand how 16,000 men could travel anywhere from 5 to 40 days. Any of the trips that she made from England to Australia, where we were taking German prisoners of war during World War II, that was a 40-day trip. The hot bunk system, one man was assigned a bunk for 8 hours. As soon as he got out, the second guy jumped in for 8, and he got out, third man for 8. So somebody was in the bunk beds 24 hours a day. Meals were served twice a day, 6 seatings at each meal. By the time the first meal ended, the second meal was already starting to queue up. They claimed there was an electric meat slicer in the kitchen that ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all 6 years of the war. They were steaming 600 eggs at a time in metal garbage cans. Of the 16,000, about half of them were seasick for the entire voyage. Think about that. 8,500 seasick soldiers. This bar is probably the best example of the type of Art Deco artwork and architecture that she became famous for. These ornamental balustrades are sculpted of permafrost. This is a white metal alloy similar to aluminum. Sculpted by an artist named Austin Crompton Roberts. He used figures and beasts interspersed with beer barrels. The beer barrel theme is carried over from the bar. If you look at the bar from a distance, it looks like the bottom half of a very large barrel. On the 4 corners, enamel urns of spun metal. This is called the Queen's Salon today. Originally, this was the first-class main lounge. This is where first-class passengers would have come to spend their day, reading, listening to recorded music. Sometimes there can be a pianist. Sometimes they can have a small orchestra would come in and play. The entire theme of the room was music, exemplified once again by the etched glass panels on the side fireplaces. Also the bronze reliefs over the stage and the 4 doorways. These were entitled Symphony, and they were sculpted by Maurice Lambert, the same man that did that frieze we just saw out in the main hall. I think this one is probably the best example of why she was called the Ship of the Beautiful Woods. The ceiling is Mazur birch. The walls are maple burr. The columns, again, are the cherry mahogany of Macquarie from West Africa. The 8 lighting urns and the 3 fireplace mantels that you see are all carved from the same block of gold onyx to ensure the same color and the same grain. The second largest piece of artwork aboard the ship is here on the forward bulkhead. This is entitled Unicorns in Battle by Alfred J. Oakley and Gilbert Bays. This is a carved gesso panel. Gesso is for the design is carved digitally enhanced us into New York Harbor in 1942.
I get the gap out of it.
Duke and Duchess of Windsor, regular travelers aboard the Queen Mary. They used to refer to this as the Royal Salon today. Originally, this was the first-class smoking lounge. This is where first-class passengers would come after dinner, particularly the gentlemen, to smoke cigars and pipes. They could play cards. They could gamble. There's an American-style walk-up cocktail bar there on the starboard side. On the aft bulkhead was a steward's cupboard with an electric hot plate and a refrigeration unit underneath so they could serve hors d'oeuvres and things in here. If you needed the help of a steward, you just located one of the cream-colored buttons on the walls and the pillars. The woods in here, plain brown oak in the corners. English collared oak or tiger's oak on the forward and aft panels. This was nicknamed Tiger's Oak because the longer you stare at the panel, within the grain of the veneer, you begin to see faces of tigers. Sometimes they're very large, sometimes they're very small. The 2 murals by Edward Wadsworth. These are egg temperas. He had two trademarks in his work. One is the Queen Mary coming up over the horizon in both. The other is he chose to use the International Signal Code.
That's real?
The real?
See?
It's not the mirror. The real one. I think you need to keep one. Yeah. Am I due for an attitude? Yeah.
It's a dining room.
The room is 3 decks in height. 3 bands of Carobo wood, imported from Brazil, is what is on the walls and pillars. In the first band, you'll see 14 pine wood carvings. These were sculpted by an artist named Bainbridge Cotnell, and they tell the history of shipbuilding. On the forward bulkhead is the decorative map by MacDonald Gill. In the center of the map, you'll see 2 tracks, hooked to pulleys in each track with a crystal representation of the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth. Every night when you came in for dinner, you would be able to see where you were in the Atlantic and how far you had traveled from the night before. 1936 version of GPS. On the aft bulkhead here is the largest piece of artwork aboard the ship. This is entitled Merry England by Philip Connor. It is a tapestry-like mural depicting scenes of typical Old English country life. Inset into the bottom is a pair of bronze grille doors sculpted by a father and son team of artisans, Walter and Donald Gilbert. Again, sea-themed creatures and mythological beings. It was through these doors that the captain would make his entrance.
Iron. Twice the size of the Titanic. That's just half the ship right there. The other half's over there. Wonder how far down in it they let you go.
I don't think very far. Unless you can find someone willing to give you an inside tour.
That would be cool.
They took the boilers out. I don't know if there's any engines left.
No. It said they turn them into rooms for seminars and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, listen to this. I want to be the guy that got to ride in that.
Guy who docks it?